Present.
Present?
Present?
Present.
Okay. Anne Marie Norris not here in light of a prior employment event that she has to participate in tonight. And next we will do Pledge of Allegiance.
Point of order. Dr. Miller, when you call the meeting to order, you need to state the date and the time
Okay,
that we started the
yes,
date.
Yes, thank you. What is today? August 22nd, 6:30, and we will start our meeting. And next we'll do a Pledge of Allegiance. Would Officer Kuzer, would you do us the honor of leading us in Pledge Allegiance? Thank you. Yes.
Sure.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So today is August 22nd. The screen does say August 8th. So I just wanted to differentiate that.
Let's
I
not
wish it
go
was August
back.
8th. It'd be
I
my
know.
birthday again. Yay.
Don't push
Okay.
that. Don't push that.
May we have a adoption of the agenda?
Dr. Miller, I would like to pull off item 6D and move it into at the top of 7A just for a separate vote out of consent, please.
Okay, there is a request to move 60 to an action item 7A. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor, say, well, we got to do roll call one by one, or can we do it now?
In looking at that policy, we
Guys,
had
we
actually,
we can't discuss
No.
it, so
Yeah.
let's
Okay.
just
So why
continue
don't we
to do
do,
how we've
just
been
continue,
doing.
let's do a roll call?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
aye.
Aye.
Okay, and the item will move to 7A. And next, we will have a call to the public. I do have one card. I have a Mr. Ralph Achu, who will, the topic is public education funding. And if you would, sir, just to hold the mic so people in TV land can hear you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the board for giving me an opportunity to share some thoughts. My name is Ralph Achu, and I am the Democratic candidate for State Senate and Legislative District 11. I'd like to start by wishing the board and the school district a successful school year, everyone. I'd like to bring to your attention the August 15th City of Maricopa press release regarding the impending property tax increase that the governor and state legislature slapped on the homeowners of Maricopa. I share the city's description of this as both illegal and unconstitutional, at least very unethical. It's being imposed with no input from taxpayers and no local officials' input either. I brought some copies if you haven't seen it. They're on the table at the back. Now, this tax hike was forced into the budget at 3 a.m. on the last day of the session. And I want to make sure that you understand that your LD11 state representatives, Leach and Fincham, are absolutely responsible for this measure. And this is after they promised not to raise your taxes. A look at the 2019 state budget shows clearly that funding for public education is still short by about $800 million a year. We should consider this budget to be merely an election year response to the national attention that was brought by the wonderful Red for Ed teachers when they marched on the state capitol. There is no guarantee in this budget or revenue source in place for future funding. It's clear Arizona needs a change in direction and a change in leadership. If we expect to make public education a real priority, we have got to elect a new governor and new state legislators. That's why I'm running to be your state senator, and that's why I need your vote in November. Thank you very much.
Okay. And next, we'll move on to the Superintendent Report. Dr. Lotman?
Thank you, Dr. Miller. It's my pleasure to highlight different examples of safety, service, and success throughout the Maricopa Unified School District. And I think that I have a PowerPoint, and maybe I should just go like that.
You did.
So, I'll go back. Does our person have our PowerPoint? I think he does. Okay, great. Well, I'll just start. You can imagine that we enjoy great relationships in the city of Maricopa as the school district in the city of Maricopa. We enjoy great relationships with our city officials and in specifically the Maricopa Police Department. And we have really enriched our partnership in the interest of student safety. Recently, I met with Commander Campbell and Lieutenant Judd, and tonight Sergeant Kuzer is here to talk about the department's transformation towards a community policing model, and more specifically, the presence of a community response team in surrounding the neighborhoods that surround our schools. We share the philosophy that our best investment in safety and crime prevention in our schools and in our cities is through good relationships. I look forward to the development of our safety committee and the routine presence that officers will have throughout our district. Our leadership spent Tuesday morning honoring the history of Maricopa Unified School District by engaging in a historical scan and rich conversations about the important turning points in our district over the past few decades. We are committed to communicating and collaborating with great care, and as you can see from the pictures, our conversations and the leadership team has a great deal to share about where we've been before we begin to articulate where we're headed in the next 5 to 10 years. So did you go to the game on Friday night? I did. It was such an exciting and wonderful showcase of the upgrades to our facility and fan-friendly environment, not to mention that we're undefeated, and with Coach Harris's bold play calling, I'm ready to continue that undefeated record this night at Millennium High School I think that's in Goodyear. Yeah. So it was so exciting to sit on in the end zone, at the end of the end zone with the staff and get to greet parents during halftime and just really revel in all the school spirit and excitement that high school football brings. It was truly a wonderful night. This morning, Mrs. Anderson and I toured the CTE programs at the high school, and I know she's going to talk a little bit about this later, but it was impressive. Our students are engaged in rigorous and relevant coursework that prepares them for a fulfilling and prosperous future. And then finally, once again, our strategic plan launch is next Wednesday afternoon. Each school has identified stakeholder representatives, parents, certified staff, classified staff, and administrators who will articulate the Maricopa why and a practical vision to pave the way for the rest of the strategic planning efforts that will take place over the next 4 months. We will also have community representation there as well, hopefully city officials. I know that Rick Horst is our city manager. He's here tonight representing the city, and I know he will be here next Wednesday from 2 to 6 to help us articulate the hopes and dreams for our children in Maricopa. With that, that concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Lotman. And now next we'll move to governing board reports. Member Coutre?
Sure. Go with the girl who's been crying all day. Okay. So since our last board meeting, I did attend the football scrimmage at Notre Dame Prep, and then our last home game. Although I will have to say I'm glad that they won, but I didn't see much of it because I was in the concession stand, and we couldn't even see the field. If there's any parents or staff members that have their food handler's card that would like to help out in the concession stand for future games, it would be most appreciative. I also attended the Desert Wind Middle School Chipotle fundraiser. They had it on a Monday. That's to help the blended learning over at Desert Wind. And when I went, it was packed. So that's always good. I was also asked to serve on the Arizona School Board Association's nominating committee, which will be in December. And they'll let me know. They're going to talk about all the people that they've asked that said yes to the invitation at their September board meeting, so I'll know if I'm going to be on that committee or not, which is an honor. I've served on that committee twice before. We do have, I'm also serving on the Blended Learning Parent Advisory Committee. We have our first meeting tomorrow night at Desert Wind, so I'm looking forward to that. We'll be going to Goodyear for the football game, and also we're all registered for the ASBA Law Conference. Thank you.
Good job, thank you. And Board Member Judd?
I will be joining Patty at the law conference and then staying for that additional Saturday to represent the will of the board for the ASB legislative agenda to cast a vote for what we decide here this evening. I'd also like to say congratulations to the boys on a great start to the football season, but that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. And Board Member Anderson?
Okay, so today was phenomenal. Being able to tour all of the career and technical education programs at our high school. Every single one of these programs, whether it's the digital photography or the infotech or the auto shop, all of them, the culinary arts, they all have businesses within their programs. And so it's pretty incredible because the infotech repairs phones, computers, and all they do is charge the person for the cost of the pieces that have, the equipment that goes into it. So, it's that, and then the digital photography, they do brochures, they do pamphlets, they do all kinds of things for other entities, as well as groups on the high school. So they all kind of blend together, and they do, cross-curricular training with the students. So when they have to write a business plan for DECA, they take it to their English class. This is a 10 or 20 page business plan. They take it to the English class to make sure that it's written correctly. So they're really using those skills, and it was really exciting to see because the students led us on quite a few of the tours and kind of explained what we were doing. And when we got down to auto tech, obviously, my kids are in that, so I kind of know a little bit more about it. But our equipment rivals what Gateway has. So it's pretty impressive, and they do oil changes, they do, they balance your tires, they'll change your tires, they have all that equipment. And so once the second and third year students get up to speed, they're the ones that, and you call, you make appointments, they take care of all of the, the customer service, and then they do a customer service survey and make sure that they're doing that part. Because so many of our kids don't get that face-to-face customer service experience because they're so used to texting. So it's very exciting to me to see that these instructors who have been with us for several years now, because that's what it takes to build a program. As we all know, we always want our teachers, that's one of our goals, is to keep our teachers here. And this is why, because it builds programs and we're able to invest. So it's, these programs are not inexpensive, but in my opinion, seeing what these students are doing, it is well worth the investment because they can leave high school and get a job right out of high school and then be able to pay their way through college while they're working at any of these positions. So several of our students have left culinary arts when they graduate and they get jobs at Harrah's. We work closely with those chefs. So it was very interesting. If you have not taken a tour and you would like to, definitely contact the CTE department and see if you can get a tour because we were there for about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours.
Yeah. It's great.
But it was, to be able to see all of it was pretty incredible, and to see what these instructors have put into our students is, I love it. I mean, I think that we could just grow this and be like the greatest high school on the planet. As you know, we are anyway, but. So I was excited to see that, and I appreciate Dr. Lotman being able to tour that with me and get to see and ask questions and see where our money's going. And it's going to a great, great purpose, and the educational value that these students are getting is amazing. So love that. And then I do have the law conference, and then I will be chairing the legislative, Arizona School Board Association Legislative Delegate Assembly, which is on September 8th. And that's where I get to corral Josh, along with 500 other board members. So I'm looking forward to that, though. It's always a good time.
Right. Great work, Board Member Anderson. I've had the opportunity to be on Desert Wind campus multiple times the last few weeks and get to meet with staff and work on hash out some different things that we need to work out. And I just want to congratulate the high school football team for an awesome victory. I know they've worked really hard. If you don't know how hard they've worked over the summer in the barren heat and going out there and train and practice and get to where they are, and Coach Harris and other staff is doing a marvelous job. So I'm really looking forward to a great outcome this season. And also, I know I've not toured the band room and the construction, but I've definitely seen some pictures. And recently, we did approve that, and it's just going up quick. And I know that's going to be a great addition to Desert Wind when the band room's done. And I know that the band director is very appreciative of that. So, yes. And with that, we'll move on next to the information item, work study. And I understand we have a presentation regarding the COPS grant in partnership with the Maricopa Police Department. And that would be...
I'll start us off.
Okay.
How about that?
That sounds great.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Miller. Tonight, I would like to orient our board to a very practical example of the partnership between Maricopa Unified School District and the Maricopa Police Department. On July 30th, the Maricopa Police Department submitted a grant application for funding school violence prevention in Maricopa Unified School District. We have a special guest in our audience. Maricopa Police Chief Steve Stahl is here to assist with questions and discussion once we've had a little bit of orientation to the goals and elements specific to the grant proposal. I've organized the presentation kind of like a newspaper article with the 5 W's and the why, and then you'll have an opportunity to ask some questions. And I hope you leave tonight with an understanding of the potential great outcomes of this grant and the associated partnership with Maricopa Police Department. Even though the why is at the bottom of this slide, it is important. It's the most important part of tonight's message. No one can sit on the sidelines when it comes to student safety. That's why the WHO, Maricopa Police Department, and Maricopa Unified got together regarding this grant proposal. Actually, MPD wrote the grant on our behalf, using district and school-specific data and information. Sequoia Pathway is also a partner in the grant, but you'll have to go to their board meeting to hear those details. Relevant to the schools in MUSD, we're primarily looking at adding cameras to the elementary schools. With the addition of the cameras to the 6 elementary schools, all MUSD schools would be outfitted with cameras. The distinguishing feature that the grant funds add is the potential for video feed directly to the police department in the event of an emergency. Chief Stahl and our district safety committee would collaborate on the specific circumstances that would govern that feature. It's to be determined, but the mechanism is there and has significant potential for response time and effectiveness in the event of an unspeakable situation. There's also a mobile app that adds other features for video feed to expedite assistance in the event of an emergency, and door locking systems that complement the security features and training already in place. Once again, we have a shared responsibility for enhanced school safety, open lines of communication, and community trust. And we are very grateful that the police department invited us to participate in this. Regarding the how, the items in this list should look familiar. I will add that the Safety Committee will include representatives from all stakeholder groups and will serve as the forum in which our ongoing reflection and refinement regarding the specific elements of the grant are concerned. This grant is one aspect of the growing partnership with our police department. We intend to keep the relationship We intend to deepen the relationship so that we may continue to provide safe environments for all kids and families in Maricopa Unified School District and the City of Maricopa. If the grant is awarded, all the elementary schools will be outfitted with cameras, but other schools will also benefit from the funding, whether that's video feed to the police department, door locking mechanisms, and training. All MUSD schools will have access to the benefits of this proposal. While the grant proposal contains a more exhaustive timeline, and I delivered that to you, I believe. While the proposal contains a more exhaustive timeline, you can see here that what we expect to accomplish in the first 90 days after the grant is awarded. I would like to invite Chief Stahl to the podium so that he may answer questions or add any depth or detail to the orientation as he sees fit. Chief?
Thank you, Dr. Boltman. Thank you, board members.
Chief, you're going to have to pick up the mic and hold it close to you.
I've never been to one.
You have to.
Thank you for the invite. I'm honored to be here. Just hearing the successes is phenomenal. Congratulations also to the football team from Maricopa Police Department. We're extremely proud of you. The CTE program, I have a phone that needs to be fixed. Do
They do.
screens?
Yes, they do everything.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go.
And they're going to have a mobile kiosk so you can actually make an appointment. I mean,
I'm there.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Again, thank you for the invite. I want to tell the board and the audience how open, Dr. Lopen has been from the get-go. As soon as she or you announced her as the superintendent for your school district, she was quick to reach out. I was quick to respond. And from my perspective, obviously, school safety and city safety is of utmost importance. But at the same time, when we first met, I had a huge list. And I think when I started going, Dr. Lopen's eyes glazed over, and she realized that my list was very expensive based on years of being here, and hers was just, okay, where do we go from here? But she never said no, and she has been open to many different things and many different ideas. So I think I am extremely optimistic about the potential for where we're going. And one of the things that we just recently talked about, while this grant is a really good start, and $300,000, if we're fortunate enough to receive the grant, is an excellent start. What I think is most important is it started a dialogue between the police department and the school district, and not just MUSD, but the other schools that we have in our city. I mean, we have 13 schools in the city that we're responsible for. The dialogue is the most important, because where things slip through the crack is lack of communication. And right now we're on a forward path to shrink those cracks and make them not existent so that we can communicate. And I'm proud of Dr. Lopen and her team for making sure that we're pressing forward. We're not just stopping here, we're pressing forward, and we're going to continue on and on and on. Dr. Lopen wasn't present for our town hall when we had our town hall, but we heard you loud and clear. The police department heard you loud and clear. We heard the students loud and clear. We heard the parents loud and clear, and we heard all the board members loud and clear. Staying the same is not acceptable. We have to do something different. Together, we're going to do that. It's going to have to be together, and that's when I first called Dr. Lopen about this opportunity with the grant. I said, I'll be happy to supply the manpower, do the school assessments, write the grant, but I'm not going to do it unless we have school support. And the school support has to be, per the grant, a 2-year sustainability objective and a requirement to sustain these things for 2 years beyond the grant period. Dr. Lopen never shied away one bit, and fortunately Sequoia Pathway also jumped on the bus. So 13 schools is a huge task. Let me start by what our folks have been doing all summer long. Sergeant Kuzer's in the back, and he's modeling our newest community response team uniform. If you would please stand, Sergeant Kuzer. It's a little different than what you're normally used to seeing from the police department. It's a little bit different color, but it's also a very versatile uniform for the officers. They'll be very visible, and it's versatile to be able to be used on a bicycle right now, which is my edict. As soon as the temperatures cool down just a little bit, you will be seeing these officers on the bikes a lot.
In the neighborhoods?
I will explain. Thank you for the question. You all know we had to take, because of resource restrictions, we had to take 2 of our school resources officers out of the middle schools. We left the high school resource officer in place. Resources are just extremely tight. But at the same time, it always seemed a little unfair to me that 3 schools got all the school resource officers, and the elementary schools and some of the other schools that we're responsible for in our city got nothing. So we started a brainstorming opportunity. We started a new program. We think it's going to be extremely effective, and it's called the Community Response Team, of which Sergeant Kuzer is in charge of. It will be 5 officers and the sergeant. Some of them will be assigned to traffic, slowing down vehicles within our school zones, passing within our school zones and things like that. And some of them will be stopping at school bus stops, talking with the students at the school bus stops. We all know that, or I believe we all know that safety doesn't just reside within the walls of our schools. It happens on the buses. It happens after they get off the buses. It happens as they're traversing from the bus stop to their homes. We're responsible for that entire neighborhood, and I think school safety includes that whole event. The event of from the morning when you leave the house to the end of the evening when you get home from your school events. That's our responsibility both as school board members and as a police department. That is the idea behind the community response team. You won't know, and very seldom will the staff know, when a police officer is going to come into the school building. Now, the school property is still property of MUSD. So if it's an inappropriate time or it's a bad time because of events going on, politely ask our officers to come back at another time. They will come back at another time. But they are responsible for all 13 schools, so they will make surprise visits, hopefully during lunchtime when they can have some fun with the students and interact with the students on a one-on-one basis. Not just talk about safety events, but talk about life events. What's going on in school? How are your grades doing? Do that opportunity for mentorship to help our young people be leaders in our community. So they will make surprise visits to all the schools, but more importantly, they will be traversing the communities around the schools. The households, the neighborhoods, things like that, that is going to be part of their responsibility. Another part of their responsibility, they're not solely responsible for just schools, they are responsible for community resources, community problems, things like that. But the emphasis is going to be on schools. Every moment that they're not handling a community problem, we want them to be in and around the schools. So that's the idea behind the community response team. Then after the community response team was put together, this announcement for a grant opportunity came up. It did not, unfortunately, include any staffing. This grant did not, you were not allowed to apply for staffing. It also was a requirement that the city or municipality or county or whatever fill out the grant and be accountable for the grant. But you had to have the partnership and the sustainability promises from the schools to sustain after 2 years. And that's why my conversation with Dr. Lopeman is, we'll be happy to fill out the grant, we'll be happy to help you with the initial investment, but we need an obligation from the schools to make sure that they are all in on sustainability afterwards. What does this mean? summer, the community response team members have visited all the schools and done a threat assessment based on Department of Homeland Security's form for school threat assessment. It's about a 20-page packet. Includes checklists, looking at locks on doors, looking at where cameras are, looking at gate locks, looking at are there any hardened enclosures, brick walls or not brick walls or chain link fences, whatever it may be, looking at all of those things to encourage the law enforcement agencies and the schools to address any safety issues so that we can make it as inconvenient as possible for someone who wants to do harm to our staff, our students, make it as inconvenient as possible for them to do so. And that is the idea behind the grant. Now, we talked about locks and we talked about things like that. Social, our kids are busy on social media. They're way better at it than we are. The national conversation, the national motto right now for school safety is see something, send something.
Mm-hmm.
That is the idea behind the app. It allows our students, our parents, and our staff to be able to immediately, whether anonymously or not, send something to the police department, and us as law enforcement agencies respond to it and investigate it, just like we would normally investigate things. It doesn't automatically indicate guilt. It just means it's something that is out of the normal normally for a parent or a student to see, and they think it should be looked into. And that's why we're here, is to look into it. One of the conversations that we've had a little bit, Dr. Loebman and I have had quite a bit of conversation on is the cameras. I know sometimes there's some hesitancies on cameras regarding Fourth Amendment rights and things like that. I absolutely agree. It's still your facilities. We'll make the recommendations on where we believe the most effective placement of the cameras are, and we will work with school staff individually on each grounds to make sure they are comfortable with those placements. Now, most of the placements are going to be external placements so that we can see people coming in and or escaping after they've conducted their bad event or before they've conducted their bad event. But also one of the most dangerous places, if you're going to restrict access to your campus, one of the most obvious places that you're going to have your most contact is right there at the front desk. So that is probably where an internal camera is going to be, is somewhere in that office area where those hostile or angry people are going to address your staff. The camera is buffering all the time. It's recording all the time, and we will set the settings on the camera to purge all of the data on the camera probably within 48 hours at the maximum, because if you keep it too long, it costs a whole lot of money to keep all that data in the cloud. So we'll purge it every 24 to 48 hours, but the real purpose of it is to, once you call 911 or you text 911, the camera will go, our dispatchers will have access to the cameras on that campus, and they will be able to see live what's going on and then direct our officers to the proper location so that we can efficiently and quickly address the situation. We don't have the resources, just like you don't have the resources to monitor those cameras on a regular basis. We just don't have those resources. And even if we did, I think it would be an inefficient and ineffective use of those cameras. So, at least to begin with, once you call 911,
I have a question.
I have some questions too, Chief Stahl.
Okay. So my first question is, are there any other cities and municipalities that have done this with other school districts? With like the live video feeds, having that technology?
Thank you for the question, Ms. Cotray. Yes, in fact, Florida is doing that right now. They have taken their own finances and beefed up their video footage. They've done both the application, the iPhone app, and they've also done video feed to their dispatch center. I know of Florida for sure. I know others are exploring it as well.
Okay, thanks.
That's it?
Well, I know you're going to go for it.
It's always a tag team.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm excited about the partnership, although I will say, you know, Maricopa PD has always been very quick to respond to our schools when a call is made, so thank you to your officers. I do know you're spread very thin. Our square miles as a city is quite large, so I do appreciate what your staff and your officers do, because I do know they respond very quickly. You answered part of my questions with the direct feed on the cameras. So, and I know that this hasn't even been set up yet, and it's new, and there's going to be some growing pains. So I look forward to working through those, because I know that things will come up. But in what you said, it sounds like the direct feed will only happen if a call is made. That's not going to be a direct feed all the time to the PD.
Ms. Anderson, the direct feed is capable all the time, but we're
Okay.
not going to engage that
Okay.
capability until we need it, until 911
Okay.
occurs, or if there's by mistake somebody calls
Correct.
the non-emergency numbers, but we determine at dispatch that it is an emergency.
And you can see what's going on.
Be able to see what's going on. Yeah, that capability is there, and certainly the great thing about the committee meeting on a regular basis is we will work through all these things, and if the committee feels like that's a direction they want to go, then we're going to have to increase resources
Right.
somehow. But right now, this just seems like the most feasible way to do it. If by chance something happens that we're not watching, that's a criminal event, that you want us to investigate, we will have 24 hours worth of video.
Recording,
feed that
okay.
We will be able to use that for investigative purposes.
Okay,
Everything on that video feed is evidence.
right.
So it belongs to the police department. It is stored as evidence in the police department once it becomes an investigation. And we've had on-body cameras now for over 3 years.
Right.
We've worked through public records requests on body cameras for 3 years now. We know, and Arizona law is quite clear, you don't release photos
Correct.
or images of juveniles. So
Correct.
We're already
Okay.
on top of that.
So I'm hearing it's an as-needed basis currently, but could be changed in the future. So that gives me a little bit of relief. And then on the mobile app, I mean, I think that sounds great in theory. I just am concerned that some of our darlings would misuse it to get back at a friend or whatever. And I just hope that there will be some discretion with, I mean, there's going to have to be an educational piece, that it's not for horsing around. But I'm sure that will be part of that.
Thank you for the question, Ms. Anderson. Yes, if we're
Okay.
fortunate enough to get the grant, I would encourage us to host another town hall
Yeah.
and explain all of these push-outs
Correct.
that we are going to do, so that parents, students, and staff know what we're doing. We're very transparent and upfront before they take place.
Yeah.
And then, yes, put the ground rules in place. Maybe rather than make it a criminal statute to abuse it, maybe
Right.
we'll make it a school rule.
Or a learning opportunity.
or
I mean,
something
it's,
like that. But
yeah,
we will work together
Okay.
to come up with a solution on misuse of the app.
okay. And then how soon do you see the grant being rewarded? Is there a timeline on that?
We're on federal time, ma'am.
Okay.
So, federal time
Years.
federal
So
fiscal
maybe
year
sometime,
starts
yeah.
October.
Okay,
So I expect sometime mid to late October that we will know whether we've been accepted on the grant or not.
okay,
And then is when the
Yeah, that's when all the planning really gets down to the nitty-gritty. And then I was looking in the sustainability piece on the grant, and it looks like our piece, and Dr. Lopman, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like our piece is about $25,000 a year to sustain it.
We don't have a defined,
Yeah.
a defined commitment for financial.
Okay.
Covering the sustainability costs. We know that it will pertain to cameras, software, that kind of stuff, but the lion's share, obviously the investment is just the initial.
Correct.
Purchase of the equipment, the door locks, et cetera. There's site licensing that's involved, upgrades. We have an idea of kind of maybe a $15,000 to $25,000 range that we would be comfortable with. Obviously, you're not making a decision tonight
Right.
at all.
Right.
But that's kind of what we,
Estimate.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
If I could intercede, once we receive the grant, then we will actually look for the vendors to do the install of the cameras, storage capabilities for the footage, whether it's in the cloud, whether it's going to be on the server, and the ongoing license fees for the app. We have already talked to some vendors who have given us a general concept of how much they think this would cost. But before we make that obligation, we will certainly be transparent, let you know what the vendors say the price is going to.
Okay.
may I add
Yes,
something? The details in the grant are based on an investigation and an analysis of the equipment we currently have in our schools. The systems that we have, what would be compatible with the systems that we have in case we were to add video feed at one of the other schools, that kind of an idea. So the vendors that are listed in the proposal, which is, obviously it sounds like those could be up for discussion, was based on our familiarity with those details, with the costs, with the equipment. So that's what gave us the comfort to bring this topic here tonight, was our familiarity with the equipment, licensing, upgrades, just the maintenance fees that we are currently involved with.
Okay.
So I have a question regarding that. We already have an issue with our bandwidth and our technology, and if we add more cameras to it, that's going to be just taking more away from what we need right now just for our schools. So are we putting that cost into it as well?
Well, and that's what I didn't quite understand. Is this a system, is it a standalone system, or is it networked in with ours? And then within the grant, is there some type of an upgrade with our system so it can all, the bandwidth
Ms.
can
Gutierrez
network and run
and
well?
board members, that has yet to be determined. That
Okay.
will be based on what the vendor's best recommendation is.
Hmm.
Obviously, for all of you, you would probably want it to be in that same network, but we don't want to hinder the bandwidth that you guys are currently contending with. So that will be part of the
Okay.
vendor selection, making sure that they are conscientious of the bandwidth, making sure that we don't compromise anything else.
And lastly, I know how important this is to have our schools safe, but I also don't want it to become a police state where the kids aren't feeling comfortable coming in. And we want to make sure that it is a safe but still fun learning environment. So I'm sure that the committees, the safety committees, will work all those nasty little details out.
Sorry, you called me not fun. No, he's fun.
He's fun.
We are very respectful of that, and again, I will state, these are your properties. We are visitors on your properties when there's not an emergency or an investigation going on. So if there's something going on that you don't want us there, respectfully ask us, can you make it another time? Can you make an appointment? This is a new concept that we want
Yeah.
all of your people, your
Right.
principals, your teachers, to feel comfortable talking with our folks. And then we certainly want our students to feel comfortable approaching an officer.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that I really want to strive for in this community response team is I'm really tired of going to a restaurant and hearing parents say, if you don't behave, I'm going to have that officer arrested.
Oh, yeah.
I want students to know that we are their friends, we're there to help them, and I want them to embrace us, to run towards us. from the city manager. I want them asking those types of questions of us. And no better opportunity than to just, surprise, we're here. And let's have lunch together and talk.
Yeah, lunch would be great. I mean,
Yeah.
kids would love it. So maybe we can even do a little extra lunch sometimes. But yeah, that would be awesome.
Well, I think personally, in my view, knowing you, Chief Stahl, and your officers, is that you do make every contact excellent. And so I think, bringing some of the stigmas, of the badge and what the uniform, really represents, that, you're here to protect and serve. And the relationships that I've seen you and your officers build has just been unremarkable. I mean, it's been awesome. And, even with my children, so they've come to you and yes. So and I see that, and I think that's what's great, of being a modern city, is that we're able to build that infrastructure and build up and build that culture. And I know that that's something that you're really worked on, your officers, is to build that culture and be in the community and build those relationships. And the officers in the schools have been wonderful in building those relationships. So thank you.
Thank you for the comments, and on behalf of all the men and women in our local police department, we want you to have an extremely safe and successful school year and school years in the future, and we just want to be part of your success.
Yeah.
We want to enjoy your success as well. So on behalf of all the men and women, thank you very much for the partnership.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, very, very, very much for spending part of your Wednesday night here at the board meeting. We are committed to being part of the solution when it comes to having a great community, as we've said a number of times. It is our intent to make sure that the police, Maricopa Police, our allies, are seen as allies and not enemies with our kids, with our children. We've talked a lot about the partnership with our police department, but we also partner with our parents, and parents will have a prominent role in the safety committee. When we talk about this committee that will evaluate and reflect and refine, that will be represented by staff, students, police officers, administration, and parents, because we partner with parents to raise their children, and we want to make sure that we have their full support and their buy-in as well, with an initiative that has such great potential. So thank you. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
And
you, Chief Stahl.
next, we will have a presentation by Udall Shumway regarding our desegregation funds, our staff attorney.
We have Denise Lowell-Britt here from Udall Shumway. Thank you for taking the microphone tonight.
You are welcome. Thank you for inviting me. Ma'am, is there a clicker?
There is. So, there we go. There.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
There we go.
All right, thank you. Well, again, I'm going to talk about desegregation funding. This is really intended to be kind of an overview presentation, just to bring everybody, I guess, together on the same page about what is happening right now. But we wanted to present it. Dr. Loeb and I talked about a presentation, and we decided to go with the past, present, and future approach to this. And so I really wanted to bring you back to how this issue even arose. And it arose because there are federal laws that prohibit discrimination on a number of bases, and in particular that's relevant to the desegregation funding. There's a federal law, it's Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and it prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, national origin in any program or activity receiving federal funds. And of course, school districts are one of those organizations and entities that receive federal funding. And And so the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights is charged with enforcing Title VI. And you are probably aware that every year across our state, across our country, people file complaints with the Office for Civil Rights alleging discrimination. And so so as a result of that, when OCR does an investigation and makes findings of that there has been discrimination, they have historically entered into agreements, if they can reach agreement with the entity at issue, to resolve those concerns, resolve the discrimination. And oftentimes, that takes a large monetary commitment to do. And so what happened was in 1983, Arizona passed a statute allowing school districts that were subject to court orders as a result of allegations of discrimination. They allowed school districts to raise local funds to help support those efforts to remediate the findings of discrimination. So that's what happened. And at that time, Tucson Unified School District was the district that was under a court order. In later years, Phoenix Union High School District as well. But in any case, we're bringing you up to date on things. So that happened in 1983. In 1985, just a couple of years later, the legislature made that enactment more of a permanent law and also expanded it to not only include school districts that were under court orders, but also those who had consent agreements with the Office for Civil Rights. So those agreements that were voluntarily reached, as well as where a court had actually gotten involved and issued an order requiring the school districts to engage in certain remedial conduct. So between the years 2002 and 2010, because of funding issues in our state, the legislature several times limited the amount that school districts were able to budget. So they were at that point capping desegregation funding at different levels, depending on the year and the budgets for the fiscal year. But the way it's historically worked in Arizona is that the districts have been permitted to budget and then levy with a tax, an additional property tax, above and beyond your typical M&O taxes for expenses that you've had to incur. And I don't mean you literally, but these are districts, 18 districts in Arizona currently are budgeting in this way. So the law allowed school districts to budget in excess of their M&O expenses to remediate, as long as the funds were used to remediate discrimination. I'm going to switch for a minute. We're going to get back to the funding piece, but I just wanted to talk about the past and how you all got involved as a school district. So in May of 1993, OCR received a complaint alleging discrimination against Maricopa Unified School District that had to do with access and equity issues for limited English proficient students. That's 25 years ago, right? So a long time ago. It took some time between May and December for the district to enter into an agreement with Office for Civil Rights. And so in April of 1994 is when OCR approved the plan to be initiated, and that at the time was a 5-year plan that included 12 different goals. And I'm not going to review them all tonight, but for example, they did include goals relating to assessment of students with limited English proficiency, benchmarks for those students, educational programming, materials evaluation, modifications. The need to increase staff was very critical because we needed to have smaller class sizes and more individualized attention for those students to be able to, again, learn what they need to learn and access the general education opportunities, as well as parent involvement in communication, which is a critical part of, again, providing that kind of access that's required under law. So in terms of the present, the district receives $1,291,000 in DSEC funding. I'm going to explain how that funding comes back to you in just a minute. But I do want to note that those funds the needs of students who are English language learners. Right? And so the district uses those funds for hiring teachers, and in fact, Dr. Logan shared that there are 25 highly qualified teachers that are hired using these funds. Development of teaching strategies and individual plans for ELL students, and then again, reducing class size. Those are just some of the ways that the district has properly used that funding. In May of 2018, the legislature enacted what was introduced as Senate Bill 1529, and that bill amends an existing statute, which is the funding statute, a budget statute, that's 15910. And so what this bill did and does is it states that desegregation-related expenses, okay, so for you that $1 million amount, is now going to have to be paid from what's called a secondary property tax rather than a primary property tax. And that this secondary tax is now going to have to be shown on a separate line on Maricopa, as well as everybody else, but property tax owners' property tax statement. So it will be very clearly delineated that this is for desegregation purposes. Okay? So those are the two main elements of this bill. Now, the challenge, and why I think we're hearing a lot about this bill, is because it conflicts with an Arizona constitutional provision. And that provision is Section 18, Article 9 of the Arizona Constitution. And what our Constitution says is that there's a maximum limit of 1% of a property's full cash value that can be allocated for a variety of taxes. So there's school taxes, but there's a variety of other taxes, and they all are accumulated by the county, by the county, okay, Board of Supervisors. And after they're all accumulated, property owners cannot be taxed more than 1% of their property's full cash value. That's the 1% limit. So what has happened historically is that the desegregation tax levies those amounts have been put into this accumulated tax, right, pot, and then the county Board of Supervisors, again, is responsible for ensuring that that doesn't exceed the 1%. So what has happened with those deseg tax levies, sometimes in some communities, it has the cumulative effect of all these taxes has exceeded 1%. So what that has meant in our state is that through prior legislation, the way it's been for years now, is that any amounts that wound up being over that 1% limit, the Board of Supervisors would notify essentially the state of that, and the school districts would get a credit, and that resulted in the state then returning monies through what we call state aid. And I'm gonna, you need to ask anything in this place too, okay? So in any case, so any excess of that 1%, the state gets notified, and the state winds up giving that money back to the district, so that the property owners are not incurring those additional expenses. It's the state that is returning the money, okay? There were two exceptions constitutionally to that 1% limit. The one is if there's any tax levies that were incurred to pay down debt service on bonds or other debt instruments, or if there's a voter-approved override election. Those two kinds of taxes were not included, in the 1%. Those would show up separately. Okay? But again, going back to the dilemma we're in now as a state, really, the desegregation tax levy is not, by our Constitution, a tax that can be pulled out of that 1% limit. Okay? So the effect, and this is what we're reading a lot about in the press, is that this bill attempts to shift the tax burden from the state through that state aid mechanism, right, to property owners by labeling it now a secondary tax that's going to show up on a property owner's tax bill. At the same time, you know, it just could not constitutionally change that definition of the taxes that are subject to the limit. And that's really just saying the same thing. The desegregation taxes are still subject to that 1% limit at the moment through our Constitution. So boards of supervisors across the state are in a difficult situation. You know, the dilemma is whether to include the desegregation levy in calculating the 1%. If they do that, then it would be considered to violate our state statute. And so there's a risk there that if they violate that, the Attorney General can suspend monies from the county. The county can sue, but that's going to be a legal process. So that's challenging. If they don't include the desegregation levy in calculating the taxes subject to the 1% levy, it would be violating the Constitution. And so there, the risk is that the county could actually be liable to property owners to reimburse them for monies that are improperly paid. Okay. So in your county, the Pinal County Board of Supervisors, they did meet on, I'm sure all of you are aware of this, but on August 15, 2018, and they voted to implement the statute. And so going forward on this coming year's tax bill, that levy will show up as a secondary tax, and there will not be any state aid to offset that tax. So that's what is happening here. I guess we've received information that the estimated cost to homeowners in Maricopa will be approximately $45 a year per $100,000 of assessed value. But because of things that are more complicated than I could explain, but maybe others can, the overall estimated difference in the taxes from 1718 to 1819 is really only estimated to be about 12 cents per $100,000 of assessed value, because there's other things happening in the market that are going to mitigate the effects of the desegregation tax. So in your community, that's actually very good news. That may not be the case in all communities. Again, I don't have a lot of depth of knowledge on this piece of it, but others could probably provide more information. So where are we at this point in terms of the future? Well, the Pima County attorney, on behalf of Tucson Unified School District, requested an attorney, well, I don't know if it was on behalf of them, but they took the initiative because Tucson Unified is the most significantly affected school district in the state. So the Pima County attorney requested an AG opinion on this issue, essentially wrote a very well-written and comprehensive letter identifying all different aspects of what we've just talked about in a simplistic way, but said to the Attorney General, help us, because we've got a real difficult situation going on. The AG responded, as they're required to do, to let the Pima County attorney know they received it, and then there is a statutory time frame for attorney generals to respond, and they can either agree with it, disagree with it, or basically issue no opinion. And so we don't know what's going to happen. The statutory deadline is coming up very soon, Monday, August 27th. I have authored the letters to the Attorney General over the years. It hasn't always been the turnaround that's required by law. I am hoping, because of the urgency of this issue, that the August 27th deadline will be honored. So we'll see how that goes. And then the other thing that's on the horizon is that Tucson Unified School District's governing board did vote in a public meeting, I think like a week ago, to authorize the initiation of a lawsuit I know from talking to general counsel for Tucson Unified School District, as well as I spoke to the outside law firm attorney that's representing Tucson if there is going to be litigation. And there are other school districts kind of waiting in the wings right now to see again what's happening in their counties, in their communities, and they will then be deciding whether or not to join or not join. And so we just don't know exactly what the future holds, but that's a possibility. Another possibility, I guess, could be that there will be a push in the next legislative session to do something different, additional.
Yeah.
So I'm sure the ASBA conference, in which I will be too, so I'll look forward to seeing you all. I'm sure that will be a hot topic of discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to, at this point, turn it over to Dr. Loatman to share her thoughts about the future. Do you need this?
No, you can leave it right there.
Okay, and of course, I'm happy to
That's
take
it.
questions.
Thanks, Denise. Questions?
Mhm,
Okay, I have a question. Or maybe a statement, I don't know what it is. But I understand that it may only cost our homeowners an additional $1 a year if it's only 12 cents per 100,000 assessed value. The point is, we didn't get to vote on it. And when I know that our representatives are blaming that on this board, that it's our fault that these DSEG funds are now falling onto the secondary tax. That's my issue. So I would, Dr. Loatman, like to, at a future meeting, maybe after we see what PEMA's doing and what other school districts are doing, just talk about the possibility of signing on with the lawsuit, because I feel it is unconstitutional for the legislature to give us a tax without public vote. So that's my issue. It's not the $1, it's not the $2, although it shouldn't be there. But I would just like to see us at a future meeting possibly look at joining on a lawsuit if need be, because I mean, I know that Representative Leach threatened us that if we did not collect this, he threatened the Pinal County supervisors that if they did not collect it, he would sue us, and then he would make sure that we got all of our other money taken away. So, it's really crazy. But on the constitutional side, me as a taxpayer, I just would like to pursue that. I just don't like being blamed for something that we did not get to vote on.
We didn't have any control over it
Exactly.
whatsoever. There
That-
was no
that's the
local
issue.
control over
I
it.
don't understand how the state can levy a county-based property tax. I just don't understand the mechanics of that. I'm not a lawyer, but I think that aspect of it, to me, is incredibly confusing. And I want to thank you, by the way, for
Yeah.
coming and
This was
discussing
great.
this issue, because
Yeah.
you saved me a ton of work.
I know. He's like, I'm gonna research
I
that.
was wanting to jump into this and really get into the history behind DSEG funds, because this goes back. There's a history here that people need to be aware of in order to have the full story of what's going on here in terms of the funding. And in connection with that, I had a question for you. You stated that this started out as a federal program.
No, I'm sorry. I mentioned Title VI.
Right.
Right.
Because it was the cost of complying with court orders way back when people sued school districts.
Because we were sued.
So it was the court costs related to a federally passed law, but it wasn't federally funded.
Right, the federal
Okay.
government did not fund the
Okay.
answer to the.
Right. That's what I was digging into. I wanted to see if at any point there was any kind of federal funding at any time attached to this.
No, the
Okay.
federal government leaves that up to the states to decide
Yeah.
how to remediate that discrimination.
Those famous unfunded mandates.
So the states, what they did at the time was to offer a solution to allow school districts
Individually
to individually, temporarily, originally raise taxes to support the remediation efforts.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah. And I want to mention just about the litigation. If there is litigation, it will most likely be what's called a declaratory judgment action. It's really legal. So it's an action that is asking a judge statute, maybe look at some facts. Judge, please tell us, constitutional, not constitutional, valid, not valid. That's the type of litigation that would be anticipated.
I
Well,
had
I
one
think
more,
that- oh,
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
I had one more question. Are you aware of any past precedents with this kind of a situation?
Funding?
For the state to impose
Unconstitutional
Exactly.
statute.
Well, I can't think of one now. I don't know offhand. I don't
Okay.
know if anyone else
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it was just, I was curious if this has ever occurred before.
Certainly it's not come to my attention as an
Okay.
educational lawyer over the last 30 years or so.
I appreciate it.
But,
Well, and we know how lawsuits can go with the state legislature, even though we can win, that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll change things right away. Denise, the presentation was fantastic. Is there any way that you could send it to us? Because I really like those
I have
facts.
it. Yes, we'll send
Perfect.
it to you. We'll send it to
Or
you.
even post it on our website.
Yeah, because we're getting questions. When we have a senator that's saying that our former superintendent is saying that we never needed the DSEG funding. So we need to be able to have the facts to arm ourselves so that we can disseminate the correct information to the community,
Yeah.
and that would be awesome. Thank you, Denise.
So
I
I just
would-
wanted to, real quick, I know that the city attorney, Dennis Fitzgibbons, also said that it would be the type of lawsuit that you just talked about, that it would be something that we just file. So he said that would be the best way to do it, too. So, and thanks for the city manager being here. Thank you, Mr. Horst. I appreciate that.
These are definitely complicated circumstances that have created an unusual tie among our state legislature, our county governance, city elected officials, and our school district. And regardless of the bill to the homeowner or the property owner, whether it's 12 cents or $45 or $90 a year, to the school district, it's $1.2 million.
Correct.
And that significant funding ensures that we can meet the needs of our beautiful and diverse student population. So as part of this process, I've had very inspiring conversations with Mr. Horst, Mayor Price, and most recently Councilman Wade has joined the conversation as well. And we want to be a model for the rest of the state and be given the opportunity to come up with the solution that allows us to take care of our kids, to have an open and transparent process that doesn't penalize our children, because we do rely on that funding. And I can guarantee you that we have willing partners, certainly at the city level, and I'm very appreciative of that. I will remain tuned in, I will remain available, and I will remain the biggest advocate for our children in this district, and I will remain hopeful as well. Thank you.
Likewise.
Thanks, Denise.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, before we move on next to the action items, I apologize, I did not recognize our city manager is in here, Rick Horst. Thank you for being here. Would you?
Because
can you
we're
come
still
up?
on the
Would you like
topic,
to?
so-
Still,
yeah.
we haven't moved on,
Yes.
so yes.
You just wanted to use the microphone.
I know.
And make sure you hold it up
You wanted
close.
to be on TV.
Chickadee chat.
You know, the 1% cap is based on the appraised property values.
Correct.
The property values are rising. Therefore, the 1% is producing more money. So a lot of that loss is made up of new money. But if this law wasn't in effect, you would have your DSEG funds plus $1.2 million to do other things with. So you're being cheated out of funds either way
Yeah.
you look at it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're glad you're on our side. That's
Yes,
right.
welcome aboard. Okay, so now we'll get to action item. We moved Consent item, what was it, 6D? That will be 7A now, and that's approve the travel for Maricopa High School CTE students and advisors for the CTSO Skills USA Leadership Training and Conferences. Board Member Anderson, you took that off. I'll let you
Well,
lead.
first we have to approve.
we have to do the consent
we have to do
agenda
We have
first.
to approve the consent agenda first with that item taken out, and then we'll go to 7, then we'll do that at 7. So first you
I
have to move, you have to
apologize
move for a
for
motion.
consent. Okay, I
to a-
thought we already did that.
No.
Yes, okay. So we'll go to the consent agenda. I understand that we will remove item 6D from the agenda and move that to action item 7A.
Correct. Now you just ask
And
for a
is there a
motion.
motion to approve?
I'll
that
motion
amendment?
that we approve the consent agenda minus item 6D.
I'll second.
Okay, and may we have a roll call? Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
There we go. And so next we'll move on to,
You still call it 6D.
Yeah, you still call it 6D, but it's in
and
action
then
items.
so
It's an
will
action
I
item now.
start off
Yeah.
Yes.
with 6D
Correct.
and then go to 7A?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So you didn't know, 30 minutes before the meeting, I was told that I was going to be chair, so I wasn't,
You're
didn't
doing a
have
great
time
job. You're
to
doing a great
process,
job.
so
You're
thank
doing a
you.
great job.
Well, you know me, I have to know everything and kind of have that control, so, but thank you. So we'll move to 6D, approved travel for Maricopa High School CTE students. And Board Member Anderson, you're the one who wanted to take it
Yes.
off? Would
I
you
just
lead?
wanted to vote on this separately because it includes M&O funds, grant funds, and CAVIT funds, whereas before it was just listed as grant funds. But whenever there is a large figure for M&O, I just like to vote on it separately. So that was, I just, so it doesn't look like we're just passing it off. So that was my only, I just wanted to call for a separate vote.
Okay. And may we have a roll call?
You have to
Or-
have a motion and a
So
second
a
first.
motion, yes. May we have so is there a motion?
I motion to approve that the funds for the Maricopa High School CTE students and advisor for the Skills USA Leadership Training and Conferences.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second, and now we can go for a roll call. Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next we'll move over to action item 7A, discussion and possible approval of personal schedule.
Thank you, Vice President Miller, members of the governing board, Dr. Logan. You have in front of you the personnel schedule tonight. I would like to request politely that number 12 please be removed from
Okay.
the list. We'll be bringing that at a later time. We're looking for some additional information in regards to the budgeting of that particular item.
Okay.
But I'll be able to take any of your questions you have at this point in time.
I don't have any questions, believe it or not. It's like.
Me neither.
It's like, wow.
Writing that down.
Okay.
So if there's no questions, can I make a motion to approve the HR schedule
With the exception
with
of?
number 12 taken off?
Yes.
I'll
That's my
second.
motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, next we'll move to item B, discussion and possible approval of the draft 2019 political agenda and the draft 2019 political agenda supporting document. And Board Member Anderson?
Sure. All we need to do on this is direct Josh on how we want him to vote on each one of these items. So, or if you had some questions on wording or order, we could ask him to stand up in front of everybody and make a fool of himself. No, I'm just kidding.
They did that for
They
me.
do,
No, they did that
yes.
to me the first year. They said, get up there and tell about, we don't want the buses. Are you kidding?
People that have to write basically requests on the spot, their grammar
Yeah.
becomes the target of everyone in the room. So if we can avoid that, I would greatly appreciate it.
You're no fun.
I mean, obviously, my advice is going to be vote yes for all these items. But that's, we can decide how, I mean, if you wanted something to be shorter, but, you know.
My request to the rest of the board members in terms of making this very quick, and I think we're pretty much already in agreement that the wording is acceptable. We've already looked at it once. and that there don't really need to be any additions, that it's all acceptable. And at the same plane, we talked about how we've gotten rid of that leveling effect
Yeah.
to where one thing is more important than the other, so we don't
Correct.
have to really choose one over the other. We're essentially saying we agree with the statement on the whole. We're turning this over to ASBA and it's
Okay.
their goal.
I do want to point out that everybody, so that one of our political agenda items as a supporting issue is under local control is the return desegregation funding to a primary tax levy. So that is one of our issues that our lobbyist with ASBA is going to be lobbying on the 18 school districts' behalf to try to get that back to a primary levy instead of a secondary. So it has been addressed on many different levels.
And again, these are not prioritized, right?
Correct. I mean, there will be some discussion that people want to prioritize them, but we've only got 4 items on the political agenda. The other items are just supporting documents as to what does it mean by adequately and equitably fund district schools to at least the national median per pupil funding. And then we've got a list of what that means, you know, all-day kindergarten, preschool, it's got all the list in there. So, but we did define it as the national median. We felt that was important, not just fund
specific.
public education, but put a
Exactly.
definition on it, so,
Previous to that, it was very gray.
yeah.
Okay.
So Member Anderson, may I make a motion?
Yes,
Okay, so I would like to motion that we direct Board Member Judd to follow and approve the draft as it is written.
great. I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call? Yes?
Yes,
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Congratulations,
Awesome.
Board Member Judd.
now you know, got your marching
Thank you,
orders.
that makes it very easy.
Have fun.
Okay, next is discussion and possible approval of the first reading of updated policy GBEAA, staff conflict of interest.
When I was taking a look at this, and I took a look at the version that we got last month, something had been moved or changed. Usually that change, if it's a change, it's underlined as in
It-
being new.
It was the refrain from
Right.
participating. That was the one that,
So-
yeah.
I wasn't sure if that was, if that change had been maintained, but it seemed like it was just removed entirely. So, and with that removal of that phrase, it's totally acceptable as is.
I have it on my copy. I had the refrain part, I have it on my copy.
It's on there.
But it
Yes.
was,
And
I think it
employee
was,
training, acknowledgement of understanding at the end, too. Is
I
on
think
there.
there was more clarification
Yes.
that we wanted with it, and it is now written in a manner that makes sense, and it also refers back to another, it brings that other exhibit
Policy.
in there as well.
Under the vendor relations?
Yeah.
Right,
Yes.
you're right, okay.
So I think that's what we were looking for before, was just a clarification and a better definition of what this was.
right. They had removed, or they had removed the, kind of the cover for teachers, like if you're attending some kind of PD and you're getting basically the handout
yes.
pencils and gifts and so on and so forth, the way it was worded in that policy, that you would basically be breaking policy by accepting that stuff. And I thought that that was, silly. We don't need to be making our teachers breaking policy by attending a PD. It's counterproductive. But it looks in the way that it's worded now, it looks benign.
So you making a motion, Mr.
Well,
Judd?
I was going to ask a
Indeed.
question. Before you do,
Go
I
ahead.
still wanted, there's a question I had. I know it speaks specifically to, was on this one, about the spouse. And, basically what the conflict of interest would be in terms of the relationships. Now, what about if there's not a spouse, but a close relationship in terms of, I don't know how better else to say it, but a significant other that's they live together or something like that. I know I haven't seen that on there, and I don't know if that's something that could be addressed. I know in past, there's been issues with that.
Oh, you mean like a partner is not a spouse?
Exactly.
So want an add-in to mention it?
Right.
We don't have a policy, the policy doesn't reference relationships among non-supervisory, the hierarchy involved. This is really specific to a
Administrators.
supervisory
Right.
role.
Right.
But say I'm an administrator and I'm in a relationship with somebody and
But they're not your spouse.
Exactly, it's not my spouse, but yet I think that there would be a conflict of interest in that as well. I wouldn't know how to word it, or and how you would, what the words would be, but I just think that could pose a conflict of interest as well, because I know that there's been issues, not necessarily here, but in other places where that's definitely been an issue.
Oh,
Yes,
and our
with a boyfriend
legalese
or-
left.
I was just going to say.
What? I know.
Denise left.
Well, I don't see anything wrong with adding in there, because it
No.
lists everybody on the planet.
Well,
We
Well,
might as
the only
well
thing
list
is with
partner.
this,
It's not a
isn't this more
relative, though.
directed towards conflict of
Says
interest in
spouse.
terms of
Supervision.
procurement? Like if we're
No.
purchasing something,
It says employment of close
Employment.
relatives right at the top. So it includes employment of close relatives.
But it doesn't say
and then
domestic partner.
vendor relationships.
So you could put,
Spouse/domestic partner.
or by close relative or domestic partner.
So does it, and I think we can bring these ideas to legal and discuss it, because there's, because it's probably going to require that.
Okay.
So.
I mean, it already says, under no circumstances will administrators be allowed to supervise close relatives. Now, does a partner fall into that? I don't know.
We'd have to see what the definition
Definition.
of a close relative is. They put it in parentheses in the paragraph above, but it doesn't include domestic partners, and that's where our issue has come in play.
I'm
But,
fine with adding it.
well, I think for this item tonight, I think we should just approve it as written and then bring it back again at a later time when we can look into, how do you put domestic relations, because they may not be civilly married, they might just be living together in a relationship, should they be supervising one another. So, but for now, I think we should just go ahead and just approve this and then take a look at the language at a later date when we've got some legal advice on it.
I think, maybe I'm mistaken, but it seems to be implied right there by the language. Because it's saying, it's including spouse within the parentheses, and then it refers directly back to close relative. Right above that, they're defining what close relative is. Am I misreading that?
But that's a
But
father,
not
mother, son,
necessarily
daughter,
is it-
sister, brother,
Is
Or
it-
spouse?
or spouse. But is a
Right.
spouse a domestic partner?
Yeah.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, a
think it
spouse
is
is
either.
only considered if they're legally married.
Correct.
And what if they're not legally married?
Okay.
So do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Per-
but I
person-
don't think we need to hold this up right now for the conflict of the language that we had put in there, but I think we should bring it back.
Well, personally, I think it's something, to me, I feel is important, but I think it would be a quick fix that we could maybe have it addressed by next meeting, would be what I would prefer. If we can just table that.
We don't have to take any action.
Yeah,
There's no motion right
There's no
now. We
motion,
can
so
just,
Right.
move on.
Okay.
okay, so then you can go ahead and move on to the next one.
Okay, next would be item D, discussion and possible approval of the first reading of updated policy JL, student wellness.
Yes, and thank you for adding in there that recess does not count as physical
We
education.
were waiting on your thanks.
So thanks, that's in there, so I'm happy.
Barring any further discussion, motion to approve?
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call? Yes?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
And next is item E, discussion and possible approval of the first reading of updated policy BCB, board member conflict of interest.
I don't
And
see an issue with it.
But yeah, I haven't.
I don't see an
didn't
issue
When I
with it
read
either.
through it, I didn't see anything. Barring further discussion, motion to approve?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please? Yes.
Yes?
Aye.
Aye.
And next is item F, discussion on possible approval of the first reading of updated policy BE, school board meetings.
So I
This-
pulled up our current one that we had, and I understand about the new text, putting in those 2 paragraphs. And then after, when it says regular board meetings, we've actually chosen the second one, or no, the
Yes,
first one,
the
that
first
that we
one
meet on the second,
Yeah, we need to put in the second and fourth.
the second and fourth Wednesday of each month. But I didn't see anything other than that when I looked at this.
That was all I was seeing too, is that I want to, before we approve it, I want to have it say second and fourth Wednesday.
Can we amend it that way?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we can amend it tonight.
yeah. If there's no discussion, if there's no other discussion, I'd like to make a motion. I motion that we approve this policy with the amendment of choosing, under regular board meetings, the second and fourth Wednesday of each month.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second with the amendment of adding the second, fourth Wednesday. May we have a roll call? Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. This is the
And
fun, exciting part of our job.
next, we have item G, discussion on possible approval of the first reading of updated policy BEDF, voting method.
I'm
We-
done with this roll call vote.
Yeah, and we discussed, we found out
Yeah.
the mystery behind this policy, and we can now dispense with this, it seems, at the discretion of the board president or on the request of a member. A show of hands may be, this is based on our discretion. It's not imposed from without. It's only if we wanted to have it, based on the wording that I'm seeing.
And I know that it was, this came in play because of a law, a statute that was changed, but according to this statute, it didn't change anything.
Right. I don't know where someone jumped to a conclusion that wasn't, it's just not legit. We don't have to go through and do that.
Well,
every
it
time.
does say they took out voice vote.
Right,
and it
but it
says
never
by
changed
a show
the
of hands
discretion
or roll call.
aspect. Right,
Well,
we
it
have,
It is. It says at the discretion of the board president or on request of the member, a show of hands or roll call vote. It doesn't say voice vote. They took it out.
Right.
So our choice is show of hands or a roll call vote.
I thought that there was, we discovered a may.
No, that was in the other one, another
Yes.
policy. Sorry.
Yeah, we have
I
those
got
two
your hopes
options.
up.
I did. I thought we could pull off a big win tonight, but apparently not. Someone needs to secretly insert a may. But okay. We can move
So
on.
is there a motion? Or more discussion?
Did you guys read like the first line of it? Ayes, nays, or absence? We can't do yes or no's? We have to do
That's what I
ayes
was
or nays?
asking. That's the other thing I was asking.
I do my,
No, it'd be aye.
Ayes.
It's aye or
Ayes.
nay.
Aye, nay? So we can't do yes, no anymore?
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I like saying yes. I
I
hate
know you
saying
do.
aye.
I know. I know.
Aye.
That half does the yes and no, and this
There's no
half
aye
does
in
the-
team.
Stop it.
we're having a little too much fun.
Well, I mean, seriously, I mean, this is policy. Are we supposed to follow it to the letter? I mean, does it really matter? I mean, can't we just say?
Can we change that and add back in voice vote? Can we ask the
No,
attorney?
no, because that's a state statute. That's one of the things that they passed at the legislature. They want everybody to be on record, I think, because now we're actually going to the legislatures on their voting records. They want school board member records to be shown as well.
Well, can't Lisa just, even though we do a voice vote, she'll know if one of us says nay.
That would be violating
She
the
could just record it on her
policy.
sheet, right? Because we got to submit the sheets to the state, is what it is. So as long as you can record it, do we have to do a separate roll call?
You either have to show hands or roll call.
Hands or roll call?
So we could do roll call and all vote at the same time, right? I'm just kidding.
You're killing me. You're killing me. I
We
don't
have-
want to go to show of hands because then I'm going to feel like I'm back in grade school.
So,
I don't think we have a choice on this
Yeah, I don't
policy.
either.
But
Motion to approve.
Second.
After all that. It was quite fun, though.
Ms. Hogg, may we have a roll call, please? Aye.
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 I,
Okay, I'm getting
So
punchy
basically,
now.
feel like we say yes, we get flogged or something, right? We got the,
It doesn't count if we say yes, I
it
guess.
doesn't, yeah.
can we send the sergeant of arms over?
Yeah.
please? Okay, item F, discussion and possible approval of the first reading of updated policy DICA budget format. And this goes back to the voting method. Did I just repeat that one?
Yeah, we're looking at
Yes.
DICA,
DICA.
budget format.
Budget format, yes.
So it's saying that we have to prominently post it on our website, and we may include the additional categories of
Correct.
instructional support.
Correct.
So we don't have to, we may. So, to be honest, I think, what we do, we're very transparent in our budget process. And our budget, I think this isn't kind of a non-issue for us anyways.
I do too.
Right.
I think we already do all this.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion that we approve policy DICA.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve policy DICA. And may we have a roll call, please? Aye.
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 Aye. Don't sound so depressed when you do that.
It is depressing. And then you say nay, nay.
She's killing me.
Okay, next,
Let's get to the end.
we'll go to item I, discussion and possible approval of the first reading of updated policy DIE,
They really need to
audits,
change that
financial
part.
monitoring.
Policy die.
I think we're in complying with this too. I think
Yeah, we are.
Business Department does a great job, so I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay.
Mm.
Give it to Mr. Judd.
So we have a motion and a second to approve policy DIE. And may we have a roll call, please? Aye.
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 So is that like a aye, die? And discussion on possible approval of the first reading of updated policy GDQB, resignation of support staff members.
And if I recall correctly, this is just because it's already existing in another policy and it's just redundancy. Is that correct, Mr. Beckett?
Thank you, Member Gutierrez. Yes, we actually, when we made the correction to our other policy, and sometimes it happens when we do policy revisions, there are actually other policies that
Yeah.
reference other things, and we just happened to stumble upon this, that was not correct. So we're asking to remove that one sentence out of our policy.
Okay. Okay, motion to approve as written.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve policy GDQB. And may we have a roll call, please? Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Don't be
The
bucking the
ayes have
system
it.
now. Please.
Oh.
Get us
Okay.
all in trouble.
And now, item 8, to adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion.
We have a motion.
I'll
to-
second.
And we have a second. May we have a roll call, please? Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
There we have it.
And now,
Thank you.
announce the time.
And it is 8:11.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Good job, Gary.
Ugh.
The attorney's going to be after us.
It's done.
All right. Come here. Okay.
Nice job.